So you both are very brave. You just took a huge trip while Rose was pregnant down to Guatemala, right? Rose, you were pregnant the entire time. So why don't
Oh,
you? Yeah. So I'm sure you're familiar with that. So why don't you kind of convey what your time moving has been?
we considered flying. However, we had a vehicle to bring down from the United States to Guatemala. So, kind of at the last second, we decided to make the trip through Mexico, coming down to Guatemala. And it was a good decision. There were definitely some challenges along the way, mainly me having to, ask them to stop every, hour so I could get out and use the
Yeah.
bathroom. Like I said, I was 6 months pregnant. So, that
Hmm.
was interesting.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Gret Glyer podcast. I'm here with Christian and Rose, who are in Guatemala, and they're a couple who just moved there but has had a lot of experience there in the past. So, Christian and Rose, thank you for being here. Why don't you both take a moment to introduce yourself? And also, Rose, I think people will want to know kind of how you're doing because of, well, I'll let you share what's going on.
Well, I'm Rose Roberts, and I'm 9 months pregnant. So my due date is in 2 weeks. Um, we're very excited about a new addition to our family.
That's
I'm
awesome.
Christian Roberts, and I did not grow up here. I actually grew up in the United States in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and that's kind of where Rose and I met. And now we're here. We arrived in Guatemala about a little over 2 months ago,
Yeah.
and have been here since, and plan to be here for the long term.
Well, I'm really excited to dive into your story because it's all very, very new in a way. And you guys had kind of a crazy adventure coming down here, and we'll get into that. But first of all, Rose, how are you doing? 9 months pregnant. What's the due date?
It's March 9th.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm doing well. I'm opting for a home birth, which is what I prefer. However, we do have a group coming down to change the roof of our house around that time where I'm expected to give birth.
Yeah.
So we will actually be displaced for a week. So part of me hopes the baby comes sooner rather than later before that happens, because I'd rather have the baby in my house. But
Yeah.
we'll see what happens. This baby will come when he's ready to come.
That's cool. So two fun things about that. One, my birthday is March 10th, so I'm secretly hoping that there's like a little bit of a delay. And then secondly, my wife actually just did a home birth about 6 months ago. Um, yeah, so it was a great experience. Well, you know how it is. It's obviously not like, oh, this is so fun, but it was a really good experience. We're very happy with how it turned out. So
I'm
yeah.
glad to hear that. That encourages me.
Yeah, yeah, be encouraged, and very, yeah, very kind of like in tune with. You'll have to talk to her about it. It's not like I can convey exactly what she went through, but sometime you'll have to talk to my wife about it. So that's
Sounds good.
cool. Yeah. So, anyways, we have a 6 month old now, and it's crazy to see all of the development and all of that stuff that's happened over the last half a year, and it's just I'm excited for what you guys are heading into. So,
Thank you.
Christian, how are you feeling about everything that's about to? I was in your position about 6 months ago. So, how are you
Yeah,
feeling?
no, it's I just continue to pray to the Lord for guidance as I take on this new responsibility as a father. It actually hit me a couple weeks ago. Rose was asking me each day, "You ready? You ready?" I was like, "No, no, I'm not ready." And then one morning I woke up and she asked me, "Christian, are you ready?" I was like, "Yeah, yeah."
Something
And I
triggered.
don't really know what that shift was, but it was just that sense of peace and contentment that, yeah, I'm ready to take on this new challenge and
Hmm.
responsibility as a fatherhood.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big responsibility. It's like impossible to prepare for, and I'm only 6 months in, so there's a lot I don't know. But it is quite it's so remarkable. It's just one day I just have this vivid memory. Like my wife and I, one day we went to sleep. She was pregnant, and we had like a full night's rest. Actually, we didn't. She started going into labor at like 2 a.m. But we went to bed, just the two of us, and then the next night when we went to bed, there was three of us, and that it's
Wow.
so hard to
Just like that.
comprehend. Yeah, all of a sudden there's like three people. I mean, there were three people there, but it was like, one of them's crying and pooping and stuff all of a sudden. So, it's something. Man, I can't wait. We'll have to do another podcast, 6 months from now, see how things are going.
Yeah.
You guys will hopefully be in a better like sleep rhythm by then. You're about to like go into the worst sleep of your life, and then it'll slowly get better. So, it's really fun. I'm so excited to follow along with that. Um, so you both are very brave. You just took a huge trip while Rose was pregnant down to Guatemala, right? Rose, you were pregnant the entire time. So why don't
Oh
you? Yeah. So I'm sure you're familiar with that. So why don't you kind of convey what your time moving has been from the States to Guatemala, how you did it, what some of the emotions were associated with that. I'd love for you just to fill us in about that.
Well, we were kind of trying to decide what would be the best course of action coming from the States to Guatemala. We considered flying. However, we had a vehicle to bring down from the United States to Guatemala. So kind of at the last second, we decided to make the trip through Mexico, coming down to Guatemala. And it was a good decision. There were definitely some challenges along the way, mainly me having to, ask them to stop every, hour so I could get out and use the
Yeah.
bathroom. Like I said, I was 6 months pregnant. So, that was interesting. But yeah, no, we made it safely through Mexico. We did have a few bumps along the way, no pun intended, at the border.
Yeah.
But thankfully we were able to get through with all of our stuff, which was kind of one of our biggest concerns was, it can be dangerous driving through several countries. But no, thankfully we made it safely with all of our things. And then getting here was just a whole new set of challenges and obstacles, which we're still getting through, but little by little it's coming together.
And I think it's important to note too that as we were, thinking about how we were going to get to Guatemala, I told Rose, we are not driving. I'm not driving through Mexico. And that's exactly what happened. So be careful what you
be
say
careful
you
what you
won't
rule out.
do. So, but yeah, the truck is a very important aspect of our ministry. It enables us to mobilize our efforts, and we can probably talk about that a little bit more. But some of our first projects with DonorSee was kind of outfitting the truck for that trip, and providing more space for storage to transport supplies down here to Guatemala. So, and praise God, we were able to make it down safely with all of our stuff still intact. A couple dents and stuff in the racks, but nonetheless, our stuff was
hard to avoid that.
Yeah.
So you took a truck down. It's a very nice truck. Did you put all of your stuff kind of in the bed of the truck?
Bed, yeah, we loaded up the bed, and then we also were able to purchase a roof rack that we had stuff on top, and then we also had a rack that was on like the tail of the bed as well that hooked in, and was able to kind of maximize space there as well. So
yeah, extremely helpful.
That's great. And then how was what happened at the border?
When we were crossing into Texas, into Mexico, you're usually given a document, just saying this is your visa for traveling through. But the official at the border told us that we didn't need this document. It was all online, like it was all not virtual, electronic. So we believed him. My parents had made the trip through Mexico many times, and they were a little skeptical, but they were like, all right, it is, 2020. So maybe that is the way it goes. And through Mexico, we had no issues, but leaving Mexico, the officials at the other end of the border said, no, you need this document. Where is it? And we told them we weren't given this document. And so it caused a few issues. Eventually we were able to get it sorted out. And then getting into Guatemala was also a little bit of a hassle just because I am a dual citizen, and we were bringing in a car from the States. So they were trying to figure out issues there. I think the bottom line is they were looking for a bribe because
Yeah.
a lot of their issues didn't really seem to be, it didn't really
They
make
kept
any
finding
sense.
things that were kind of
Yeah,
illegitimate.
yeah.
Yeah.
But as
I'm
Guatemalans, I mean,
familiar.
my dad and I are citizens. We refuse. We're like, we're not paying anything that we need to pay.
Yeah.
So we were stuck at the border for longer than anticipated, just, due
Yeah.
to some of the problems that they give us. But thankfully we made it through eventually.
Yeah. It must have been relieving. So how, I guess I'm curious, you brought up your family a couple times. How has your family reacted to taking this trip while you were 6 months pregnant? I mean, it's quite the trip. You went from, was it at Georgia all the way through Mexico down to
Yeah,
Pennsylvania. It was
Pennsylvania,
Pennsylvania? Okay,
down
Pennsylvania, so
to
even higher up. Yeah.
Texas, yeah, and then crossed over to Texas. So,
Man,
I mean, it was all in all, I think we were on the road for about 8 days,
10
10,
days.
10
10
days.
days.
10
Wow.
days.
Yeah, no, my family, they were very not surprised. I tend to make decisions about this is the best way to get it done. This is how it's going to happen. Doesn't
Uh-huh.
matter like that I'm 6 months pregnant. So they weren't really surprised by our decision to do that. They were very supportive, and I got a lot of messages from friends in the medical field, to giving me tips like make sure you're doing this, like when you're confined. So that was very helpful. But my family was very supportive, and thankfully I had my mom with me throughout that trip, and
Oh, cool.
she actually made that same trip from Pennsylvania to Guatemala when she was pregnant with me and my twin brother. So I thought I
Yeah.
had it bad being 6 months pregnant with one baby, but my mom was pregnant with twins. So
Okay.
I figured I didn't really, have anything to complain about.
Yeah. By comparison, I suppose not. But wow, that's quite something. Christian, as having a wife who's pregnant, what were your feelings around this trip and the security you felt and all of that?
Yeah, there were certainly some reservations, and I think that's why I was pretty, adamant at the beginning that we were not driving. I didn't feel comfortable
Yeah.
with it. I didn't feel safe, and then just as we continued to weigh our options and pray about it, the Lord made it very clear that no, this is the way that you guys were going to go. So just trusting in that this
Hmm.
is how we were supposed to get there.
Yeah.
I knew that God was going to protect us and be with us. But yeah, there were certainly some reservations,
For sure. Yeah. It's
especially
natural.
because Rose being pregnant.
Yeah, even without the pregnancy, I could see it being
Mhm.
kind of a tense decision, but yeah, that would just heighten it.
Right.
So let's take a step back, and I'd love to hear more about. It's a big deal to move to another country. I guess maybe more so for you, Christian, since you didn't grow up there.
Mhm.
So what started this whole? People start on this path at some point where they decide they're going to live overseas and devote their life to missions. And so what like if you could just take a step back and think of
Mhm.
like the earliest moments where you started thinking about this might be where my life is headed, what were some of those early moments in your lives?
Yeah, I mean, growing up, I kind of always envisioned myself moving away from home. Like whenever, that time came where I went through school and then done with school, time to find a job, I kind of knew I would always be away from home just because I like to travel. But I didn't really know it would be in this capacity, like, moving internationally. But really, it was clear to me in 2019 when we had come here for about 4 months. And that was kind of a little bit of a trial run just to see if,
Hmm.
you know, by day I'm a physical therapist. So to see if I could take my profession here and if there would be a need here, could I, work and provide for a family?
Hmm.
And then as we were experiencing that it was obvious that the need here was great, but praying about that, the Lord just really showed me like, yeah, I want you to be here, I want you to be doing this, but I don't want you to be really receiving anything in return for it. Like
Hmm.
this is going to be a ministry, this is going to be outreach, this is so in 2019, that's when God had made it very clear that we were to move back here and start this ministry that we have now.
That's cool. And Rose, so you grew up there. What was that transition like for you? In fact, what was the transition like growing up in Guatemala, moving to the States, and then moving back. How was that whole process?
Yeah, no, it was really interesting. Yeah, I grew up here. I spent about the first 20 years of my life here in Guatemala. There was a few years back and forth between the States and Guatemala. But I always knew I would be coming back to Guatemala. I grew up translating for a lot of medical teams. So I got to become very familiar with a lot of the medical necessities in the communities. So I always knew that there was a place for me here. And I knew that going to the States, I would be able to accomplish the goal of getting back here. I went to school for nursing in the States, which is where I met Christian. Um, but yeah, no, the process, it's not what I expected at all. I consider Guatemala my home. I'm in the house that I grew up in. I'm with the village that I grew up in. And but I realized that being an adult here is different. Like last time I was here, my parents were still living here as well. They took care of all the adult issues, but
Yeah.
now it's different because it's me who's taking care of it all. Christian's still learning the language, so all the workings of the home has fallen to me. So it's been not what I expected. I don't know why I thought I could come back and expect my parents to still take care of things.
Yeah.
But it hasn't been the case. They've
Uh-huh.
been very helpful, but
Yeah.
the process has been unexpected. But yeah, no, I always knew I'd be coming back to live in Guatemala. And so when Christian and I started to date seriously, I told him, it's time for you to come to Guatemala then, because that's where I'm going to be. So if you want to be with me, we're going to see how you and Guatemala fit.
Yeah.
And thankfully it was a match made in heaven. So
That's awesome. How long did you guys date for?
We dated for about a year,
year and a half,
year and
over
a
a
half.
year. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. And then you got engaged and got
And
married.
then we got engaged, and then 6 months later, we were tying the knot, which is that's another aspect to this is telling my family
Yeah.
that we're like, listen, the engagement's coming up, but more importantly, the marriage is going to be 6 months later, and we got married here in Guatemala. So
Oh, okay.
typically American standards, you give a year, right,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
the save the date, and
Uh-huh.
they had 6 months, and it was going to be
Yeah.
an
International.
international wedding, but the Lord saw to it that everyone would be here, and so we had both of our families here for
That's
it.
cool. That's awesome. And did you guys have was it a Guatemalan wedding, an American wedding, a hybrid? What was the?
That was it was beautiful how it all turned out, but that was one of the challenges to getting
Yeah.
married here is like, I mean, my dad is Guatemalan, my mother is American. I grew up in a indigenous village, so having a tricultural wedding, because I wanted to incorporate all of the cultures I grew up with into my wedding. So it was a bit of a challenge, but it turned out just beautifully. So we did incorporate a lot of the traditions that
That's cool.
Pocomchi people have, as well as Hispanics, as well as Americans. So
Yeah.
it was a beautiful wedding.
Mhm.
And then can you paint a picture of what your not only your daily life is like, but also like what's going on outside of that house that you're in? Like you're right now you're in a house, but there's a whole village outside of there. There's a whole country outside there that people might not be familiar with. Can you paint a picture of what your surroundings and your daily life is like?
Yeah, so I mean, where we're located in Guatemala is about 5 hours
From the main city.
from the main city. And is that north? We're 5 hours north of Guatemala City, which is considered the highlands, so there's a bit of elevation. We're in the jungle, and where the house is particularly located is in the village, which is about 5 minutes outside of the main town. So our house sits right at the kind of at the top of the hill, right, at the front of the village. So yeah, I mean that it is interesting, even just from, you walk outside your house, you have this culture, and then you go 5 minutes into town and there's a different culture. And
Yeah.
then you go 5 hours to the city and you experience yet again another
Completely different,
culture.
yeah.
Hmm.
So it's interesting.
Yeah. No, village life it's my favorite. It's quiet, although the village is growing, so it's starting to get a little bit louder. Christian brings up all these noises that he hears that I'm like, oh, I never actually noticed that, because I tend to,
It's so
it's
normal
so
for you.
normal to me. Yeah. So
Wow.
like dogs barking and roosters crowing, and you can hear our neighbors, chattering along the path. And
Hmm.
so I think it's quiet, but maybe someone who's not from around here would consider it not so quiet. But no, everyone knows everyone, so it's a very close knit community. And yeah, I love village life. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it sounds almost like idealistic, like something you would read about in a book, but it's a million miles away. So, but and I love that kind of thing too. I guess the thing I would love to know more about is what does village life look like for a lot of the people who are there, native to the village, like grew up, born in the village. Like, what does their life look like?
It's very simple. It's a simple life. And I think, a lot of times, especially as an outsider, but people coming down from mission trips and stuff may perceive that simplisticness as um, like poverty. And
Hmm.
in a sense, compared to the norm, whatever the norm is, or our norm as Americans, it would be considered, you know, an impoverished country. But to
Hmm.
them, you don't really sense poverty,
Yeah.
especially when you talk to them, or you're just interacting with them. It's, life is full, and they may not have much in terms of, quantity, but the quality of their life is, it's great. And
Very true.
and the people too are also just very generous, because with
Yeah.
little they do have, they're very quick to let you in on that, or to give you, whatever they do have the offer. Just for example, just the other day, we're seeing a patient here in our home, and she came with her mother, and her mother brought us 2 eggs from the chicken that the chicken had laid that day. It was the only
Hmm.
2 eggs they had, and they decided to give them to us as a token of their gratitude for the services that we're providing to them. So
Yeah. That's
it's
so
really neat.
cool. That's really beautifully put, and it reminds me a lot of the time I spent in Malawi. There was the way that you described it is so perfect. It's their lives are full. It is slower, but their lives are full, and they have good relationships, and they're insanely generous. Like, I couldn't believe how generous people were, and especially in contrast to kind of the materialism that saturates a lot of
Mhm.
America and the developed world. And yeah, it's such a contrast and such a different pace of life. So I'm gonna come visit you guys. I'll bring my my wife and kid. I can't wait to hang out.
Awesome.
But yeah, that sounds awesome. Can you talk about some of the work that you're doing, Christian? I think it's really meaningful, and it's meeting a very felt need in that area. So I'd love to hear more about what you're doing with your physical therapy.
Yeah, right now we're really making house calls. We're going to see people in their homes, and then we're also accepting people to our house as well. We did just sign a lease on a clinic, which is,
Awesome.
very
Congrats on
exciting.
that.
Yeah, thank you. And we hope to have that up and running by June. So it has made it a little hectic, keeping a schedule of going to house to house to house, but just being with people in their you know atmosphere and environment is been very cool to see, because I've gotten to experience really what life is like here by being welcomed into their homes. um I mentioned that the quality of their lives, is it's full, but in the sense of like healthcare needs, it is certainly lacking, which is why we felt called to be here and provide physical therapy as a
Hmm.
service. The people here are still resistant to Western medicine in a sense,
Hmm.
because it just doesn't really match up with what they're used to. They've been doing things, a different way for, hundreds of years. And it's very much a holistic approach, and physical
Yeah.
therapy really comes in and and matches that holistic side
So
of
they're not as
treating.
resistant to physical therapy as they are with
Exactly,
some other
exactly.
methods. Very
Um,
cool.
and the other thing that we like about what we're doing is that it's sustainability as well. That's a very important aspect to us. And we there's certainly the importance and the need of seeing doctors and that type of thing. There's definitely a place for it. We're not excusing that by any means. But people come and they're treated by these doctors, and then the doctors leave, and that's really what the people remember, because what they're given is just treatment that's just putting a band-aid on something. Whereas
Yeah.
what we're able to provide is medicine and treatment that lasts a long time, and we're also here to stay as well. So as problems continue to arise, we're able to respond to that call.
Yeah, I just think that that's like the ideal, is to have, if you're gonna get involved in another culture, it takes time to learn that culture and get to know it and be able to help in an effective way. And I think you guys get to expedite some of that, since Rose, you grew up there.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's achieving that sustainability does just take time, and it's so good to hear that you have this commitment to being there. So cool. Well, I want to talk about. I want to kind of end talking about what some of your needs are. We currently have a project on DonorSee that I think needs to get funded immediately. That's my opinion. It's donorsee.com/wall, and the story about like how that project, how the need for that came up. I'd love for you to share about that, because yeah, you guys are doing good work, but also you need support, and people need to support you. And I think that they would be thrilled to support you. So why don't you share about that project and anything else that you've got going on?
Mhm.
Yeah, well, I guess I can share a little bit about how we came to the decision for this project. We had been talking for some time about potentially putting up a wall around our property. There were a few reasons for this, just because we get a lot of dogs that tend to wander onto our property. In fact, our poor cat got attacked by one of
Oh
these.
no, that's terrible. I've seen your cat. She's very
I
good.
know, and thankfully he's a good village cat, so he clambered up a tree where he
Oh.
got stuck for the rest of the day. He
Sounds like
was
a children's book, and you guys need
yeah.
firemen to come. Yeah.
But yeah, and so we had felt like, our property might need some, just some extra protection from what can happen. But the decision became very clear when I was sitting in bed one night, and our bed is right below some windows, and just this rock came flying through the window, shattering our window and
Wow.
just spreading glass all around. I was very yeah, shocked. I wasn't
I
really
can
scared. I was
imagine.
more like just, yeah, shocked.
Yeah.
We don't really know, who it was that did it. We don't know if,
Yeah.
some boy maybe was just playing around, or it's something else. But it definitely made the decision clear that it was time to put up a wall around our property for security reasons.
Yeah.
So yeah, we decided to go ahead and move forward with that decision.
Hmm. And yeah, Gret, as you were saying earlier about, that heightened sense of protection as
Yeah.
a father, or, as a husband with his
Hmm.
pregnant wife, that just, I'm not one who gets angry,
Yeah.
very quickly, but that kind of created a bit of anger, in
Yeah.
me. And so it was clear that it was time to kind of take action. I think one of the things that was kind of keeping us from making that decision was a definitely one of finances. It's something that, as we budgeted for this first year here, we were certainly not planning to put up a wall. But we now, with this partnership with DonorSee, we kind of see it as, no, this is doable. This is
Hmm.
realistic.
Yeah.
So in fact, the construction has begun. They've already started digging the ditches for the wall.
Oh, nice.
Hope to have, as the funds are provided, we can continue this in the
Yeah.
phases, but yeah, we're happy that the construction was able to start because of, the money we've been able to raise for this project.
Yeah. Well, when I saw your project get posted, and I think you even posted you were standing in front of the window that had the rock thrown through it, and I just thought, man, I could put myself in that situation, having a little girl who was just born 6 months ago, and just thinking, man, that would be tough, that'd be scary. And yeah, I hope that people check out. So it's donorseed.com/Walt, right? That's where people can find it, and we'll put that in the link down below, and we can share this video and share the link and stuff. But I think that'd be a great thing to get funded and really give you a lot of peace of mind. I think people um, I think sometimes, especially when you're doing self-sacrificial work, you tell yourself, "Well, I don't need the peace of mind because I'm in service." And it's like, no, actually, the peace of mind helps you do the service better. You can help more people
Yeah.
that way. You can make a bigger impact that way. So I think people should see it as this way to help you expand the impact that you both are making. And
Mhm.
yeah, man, you guys are doing some really great stuff. Before we kind of end, is there anything else you wanna share with everyone about your lives there, or any updates that are coming up soon?
Yeah, I mean, just be on the lookout for, more projects
Yeah,
too. Now that we have the clinic, we really need to outfit it with equipment and supplies and
yeah,
that type of thing to really get it up and running and to be able to, run effectively for the people here. So, we plan to be posting some stuff for that as well. But yeah, I mean, all of our patients who have gotten funded for are doing fantastic. In fact, we're going to see a couple of them today, and
cool.
it wouldn't be possible without our supporters on DonorSee. So
Awesome. Well, yeah, I know our supporters love supporting you, and I hope that this brings you more. I hope that people being able to kind of virtually meet you through this conversation gives them the confidence to get to know you and give to you guys, and support the work that you're doing. I hope it just grows and grows and expands. And yeah, I'm a big fan of Christian and Rose and what you guys are doing. So thank you very much.
yeah,
Thank you.
thank you for this opportunity.
Absolutely. You guys have a great day, and yeah, keep up the great work.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
You as well. Thank you.